I firmly believe that Joe Biden is a bigger threat to world peace than Donald Trump. President Biden made yet another public gaffe, accidentally revealing his hand over Ukraine. He essentially gave Russia the green light to take a little bit of Ukraine. Just actually have a look at this now.
Russia will be held accountable if it invades, and it depends on what it does. It's one thing if it's a minor incursion and then we end up having a fight about what to do and not do, etc. But if they actually do what they're capable of doing with the force amassed on the border, it is going to be a disaster for Russia.
You said that Russia would be held accountable if it invades, and it depends on what it does. Are you saying that a minor incursion by Russia into Ukrainian territory would not lead to the sanctions that you have threatened? Or are you effectively giving Putin permission to make a small incursion into the country?
Good question. That's how it did sound like, didn't it? The most important thing to do, big nations can't bluff, number one. Number two, the idea that we would do anything to split NATO, which would be have a profound impact on one of Putin's objectives is to weaken NATO, would be a big mistake.
I'd quite like someone to just ask him what day of the week it is, personally. But anyway, so now Vladimir Putin essentially knows what the American stance is. Now, no matter what Biden says, Putin will know that he'd be allowed to take a minor incursion into Ukraine and probably avoid sanctions. This has created a monumental diplomatic incident with Ukraine, whose president, Volodymyr Zelensky, said there are no minor incursions, just as there are no minor casualties and little grief from the loss of loved ones. You can completely understand that. Can you imagine if Joe Biden said the same thing about this country? A minor incursion into the UK might not be treated that seriously. We'd be absolutely fuming, wouldn't we? Joe Biden has revealed his hand, and quite possibly NATO's hand as well, and with it, made some kind of Russian invasion more likely, in my opinion. It's put lives at risk. It's potentially put Europe at risk. His incompetence is actively dangerous. The amount of times his staff have come out and said, oh, but the president misspoke. The amount of times they issue a clarification. It's a circus. And it's not the first time President Biden has dropped the ball when it comes to foreign policy. Just look at the withdrawal from Afghanistan, for example. Thanks to Joe Biden's ham-fisted attempt at getting his troops out of Afghan, he left $85 billion worth of US military equipment, some of it usable, 75,000 vehicles, 200 aeroplanes and helicopters. The Taliban has more Black Hawk helicopters than 85% of the world's countries. Biden also dropped a clanger when it came to Taiwan. He essentially, yep, you guessed it, misspoke and said that America had committed to fighting China over Taiwan if the Chinese government invaded. Again, they had to issue a clarification that the president actually misspoke yet again. Like him or loathe him, though, Vladimir Putin is a strong man. Strong men like other strong men. That's why Trump was able to handle him, in my opinion. The same goes for little rocket man Kim Jong-un. Trump said unequivocally that North Korea would face fire and fury if they continued with their nuclear program. And the test launches seemed to stop for a while at least. President Trump had a reputation as a kind of shoot-from-the-hip loose cannon who could plunge the world into chaos at any moment. But in practical reality, what happened? What catastrophic event took place under Trump's watch? Joe Biden forgets what he's saying, loses his train of thought, stumbles over his words, doesn't make sense, looks tired, looks as though he's in cognitive decline. At least under Trump, you knew he was running the country. Under Biden, I'm not sure if you actually have any idea at all. But it's definitely not him, is it? As a result, other world leaders think he's gettable. They don't respect him, and they don't respect his judgment. They know that the lights are on, but nobody's at home. It's embarrassing for America to have him as their leader, but it's bad for us as well. Much of the Western world relies on America to be its ultimate protector, defender, and ally. And if the US president isn't up to the job, all of our mutual enemies not only become stronger, but they also become more likely to act.